Hello YouTube vintage stereo collectors and restorers. Just kind of a part 2 on this Empire turntable, the Troubadour. And this is a fairly early one. It's a 208 bass, 980 tone arm from what I'm finding on some of the postings about these. It's got the Papst motor, which is German. And look at this. That is the platter. It's like how do I explain it? It's like a flywheel on the back of a motor. Anyway, look at this shaft, and it has an oil channel in it. And then this ball is permanently attached. It's not separate. That is, I would say, 5 or 6 pounds. Now, I've cleaned up, kind of done a degreasing and cleaning on this. I think it's going to need a little more aluminum polish to make it look nice. The platter itself, most of it's of course covered. That's the 45 RPM pop-out adapter. And it was stuck. I did get it popped out. I need to do a little cleaning on the edges of this. What I wanted to show you underneath, hopefully there's enough light. Yeah, we're not bad. So, this is like as simple as they get. This connector up here is the tone arm wire. And I'm actually going to rebuild it a bit. It was wrapped in that weird tape, so I'm going to take most of that off to see what the wires are like underneath. So it's kind of neat. There's a plug that goes on this and you can resolder new leads onto the plug. Kind of a neat thing as long as it makes good connections. Power switch. This is a bayonet bulb holder that holds a bayonet neon bulb, and it's still working. It's not super bright, but it's still working. A motor start capacitor, which is kind of rare in a turntable, but once you get to a bigger motor size, it's actually lowers the wear in the motor. This ground wire is broken off. I'm just going to resolder that. Now to oil this motor. This is kind of a unique motor. It actually only has one bearing, and that's at the bottom. So just like, it's like the turntable platter, there's a bottom bearing but none at the top. Many motors I've worked on, a lot of the duals and the other ones from this same era, the 60s, have a shaft with two bearings, one at the top and one at the bottom. So to get at this cover, to get a screwdriver in there, you gotta kind of take the motor out. It's 2 screws and a nut, and it drops down. You can see what shape the rubber grommets are in. These ones are actually pretty pliable. I think they've been changed, or they're just very well preserved. Then what you do is make sure this is pointing up, because I slid it over to here, took it off, and the little ball bearing went and landed here. I'm like, okay, it'll be fine there. And then I looked at the bearing and everything. It was still spinning freely, but it was really dry. There wasn't much in there. And it's not a very big space. There's a small cup right here with a thrust washer in it. So I put in 3 drops from my turntable oil. This stuff here. It's good for electric motors. You can also use 3-in-1 or Singer electric motor oil. It works good. I think automotive oil isn't quite right for this. I've seen that in some blogs and forums. So I had this end pointing up, took that off, cleaned it out with some alcohol, and put in 3 drops of oil, put it back together. And I was lifting a little ball like this, and I dropped it in and it stuck to my finger. And when I pulled back, it went bounce, 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 onto the garage floor and rolled. I went, oh no, it's gone. But I was actually able to see it. I got down on my knees and I could see it, and I picked it up with a piece of tape so it wouldn't go anywhere. Then, as suggested on one of the blogs, I just put a little bit, just a tiny drop of molybdenum grease on the thrust washer so that the ball would stay there while I reassembled it, and that worked good. So there's not that much to this. If the motor start capacitor is bad, the motor won't start or will start slowly. It may hum a bit. This one looks original. It's a fluid filled, it's sort of like really old school capacitor. I'm just going to see how it is. I put a tester on it. It's kind of hard to get at the leads properly. It shows that it's just over 4 microfarads. But anyway, let's put this down. And here's the thing. This just spins beautifully now. When you turn it on, you can hardly hear the motor running. That's how nice it is. Very good motor. As far as the tone arm goes, I did a cleaning. I think it still needs more. It's got all the dirt off of it. This looks like this was like sitting on a shelf somewhere, like in a basement. And it just kept raining dust on it. So I got it dusted and cleaned, and I think it still needs a little more polishing. But everything's here. This is the counterweight. Nice, eh? Over here's how you set tracking force. And this is your pickup. And there are bearings in here, and it says, if you download the manual from Vinyl Engine, it says do not oil them. And I think they're all right. I've got a piece of tape on here. The bearings are like, there's just a little play. Feels all right to me. The latch that's in there isn't very strong. So what I'm going to do now, I'll just grab it here. Show you the head shell on one of these. It does have a removable head shell. The wiring's been fixed. A little bit of resoldering on it. I'm going to put an Audio-Technica cartridge on it, just one of their conical ones. This turntable from this era, I think a conical is best. And just see how it tracks and sounds and see what the speed's like. Okay, this is the head shell or carrier for the Empire turntable. I've had to do a bit of a fix on it. It had these absolutely horrible wires. Factory wires, but very weak. Had this Empire cartridge on it. Very gently pulling them off. 2 out of 4 broke. What I've done is a little bit of a retrofit. I've done this with other ones. Like these dual cartridges, for instance, have the very thin, fragile wires as well. This one I haven't fixed yet. This one is okay, but this one wasn't going to make it. So I desoldered all the little lugs that fit on the terminals of the cartridge with new wires correctly color coded. And this is something might save you some hassle. Right there, this is out of the downloaded instruction manual for the tone arm and the carrier. It shows red wire as left channel positive, green wire as right channel positive. Okay, brown as right ground, and white as left ground. Well, that actually doesn't match any known cartridge that I know of. Even these old duals from the 60s use the red, green, white, and blue. So that's what I've done. I put the correct colored wires on here so that I can, for instance, put this new Audio-Technica cartridge on and use the more common color code today. I've seen this on the odd ones on a couple Gerards that are like that have an odd color code. And you replace the wires with the correct ones. And you have to be careful with this. See these contacts here? This is what gets pushed up underneath the tone arm. And there's 4 gold fingers that contact them that take the signal down the tone arm wiring. Can't go too hot. You can only very quickly desolder and very quickly solder. Same with these ends. Very quickly desolder, very quickly solder. But this will work out good now. So just a little tip. Put the cartridge on like that. Thanks for watching and listening.